far from the bustling streets and vibrant colors of Mexico City. Hidden within the labyrinthine canals of Xochimilco, a chilling whisper permeated the air. The island of the dolls, Isla de las Muñecas. This was no cheerful tourist spot. It was the tangible manifestation of a forgotten nightmare. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of mutilated, decaying doll bodies hung from trees, leered from the walls of abandoned shacks, and lay mired in the mud. The grotesque creator of this tableau was Don Julián Santana Barrera, the island's former caretaker. Legend had it that Don Julián began this eerie collection years ago to appease the spirit of a little girl who drowned in the canal nearby and to ward off malevolent entities from the island. I had come to understand what transpired, to witness the dark secrets of this island with my own eyes. Hiring one of Xochimilco's colorful trajineras, we navigated the narrow, winding canals. The air was humid and heavy, the water smelling faintly of algae. While joyful music drifted from other nearby canals, an eerie silence fell as we approached the island of the dolls. The moment I spotted the first doll, a cold shiver ran down my spine. It was an old toy hanging upside down from a tree branch, one eye dislodged, its dress in tatters. As we drew closer, their numbers swelled. Dolls of every size and type. Some were limbless, others had their heads severed from their bodies, and still others had faces melted into grotesque, terrifying masks. Stepping onto the island, I felt as though I'd crossed into a different realm entirely. The air was thick with the unbearable stench of decaying organic matter and mold. The dolls' empty eyes seemed to track my every move. When the wind blew, they collided, producing a chilling, clattering sound. Every corner of the island emanated a profound sense of sorrow, pain, and indescribable grief. Don Julián's shack, half ruined, stood surrounded by the dolls. Inside it was dark and damp. A faded photograph of Don Julián hung on the wall. His eyes were melancholic and weary. In the center of the shack stood an old wooden doll. Unlike the others, it was relatively well preserved. Legend claims this doll belonged to the drowned little girl, and Don Julián had found her in the canal. As I approached the doll, I suddenly heard a faint child's laugh in the air. The sound was not joyful, but rather mournful and echoing. No one else was there, just me and hundreds of decaying dolls. My voice recorder at that moment picked up faint, incomprehensible whispers. Perhaps it was the sorrowful play of the little girl's spirit, or a mere reflection of Don Julián's profound loneliness. As I wandered the island, I noticed that some of the dolls' eyes seemed to follow me. When I turned my head, I felt them slowly turning too. Was this merely a trick of my imagination, or were these dolls indeed conduits for the spirits haunting the island? Beneath a tree, I spotted a doll sitting on the ground, its head completely severed. Next to it lay a small, rusty pair of scissors. It was as if someone had just decapitated the doll. Don Julián himself was said to have died on this island, too. Perhaps some visitors, in their own twisted way, sought to contribute to this eerie atmosphere. Walking towards the canal, I saw a slight ripple on the water's surface. In that instant, a silhouette of a hand seemed to emerge from the depths of the water. It was too quick to discern its exact form, but an immediate surge of fear gripped me. According to legend, Don Julián also drowned in that very canal. Could that hand belong to his restless spirit, reaching out from the watery grave? As night fell, the island's atmosphere grew even more unsettling. Shadows lengthened, and the doll's empty eyes became more prominent in the creeping darkness. The howl of the wind mingled with the chilling clatter of the dolls as they bumped against each other. From a distance, I heard a faint whisper. At first I dismissed it as wind, but then the whisper became more distinct. It was as if all the dolls around me were speaking at once, in an incomprehensible language. My voice recorder continued to capture this chaotic cacophony of whispers. Returning to the shack, I heard a faint swaying sound from inside. The door was ajar. Peering in, I saw the wooden doll in the center slowly swaying. There was no wind. The window was closed. The doll swayed as if pulled by an invisible string. In that moment, a soft child's voice came from the corner of the shack. "Play with me." The voice was so close, so real, that I flinched and recoiled. There was no one else in the shack. Just me and that lifeless doll. As the first light of dawn broke, I began to explore the island again. A light rain during the night had left clear footprints on the island's muddy paths. Besides my own, I noticed much smaller, bare footprints. These prints led towards the shack, then abruptly disappeared. There was no one else on this island. Did these tiny footprints belong to the drowned little girl? Or were they a sign of other, unseen inhabitants of the island? Following the tracks led me to a small, previously unnoticed grave behind the shack. A faded doll lay on top of the grave, as if left as a final offering. In the afternoon, as I rowed my boat alone through the canal, I looked down at the water's surface and saw the indistinct silhouette of a face. It was pale, expressionless, with long dark hair rippling in the water. The face disappeared a few seconds later, as if being pulled deeper into the canal. At that moment, I felt a sudden coldness in the water, and my voice recorder picked up a muffled scream, as if coming from beneath the surface. Was this the face of the drowned little girl, or was it a reflection of other forgotten souls lying in the canal's depths? My oars began to tremble, and I rowed frantically towards the shore to escape the water. As the sun began to set, I stood in an open area at the island's center. The hundreds of dolls surrounding me looked even more ominous in the reddish light of dusk. At that moment, with a light breeze, I noticed the whispers emanating from the dolls grew more distinct. Initially, it was an incomprehensible murmur, but then it slowly transformed into words. Dolls spoke in different tones with different voices. Some cried, some giggled, and others whispered my name. "Come, stay with us, forever." The voices seemed to come from all the dolls around me simultaneously. These lifeless toys seemed to have come alive, as if all the island's spirits had possessed them. I froze in terror, then turned and ran frantically towards the canal, my sole aim to escape this cursed island as quickly as possible. As darkness continued to engulf the island, I noticed a faint light emanating from Don Julian's shack. There had been no light inside before. With a mixture of curiosity and dread, I approached the shack. The light flickering from within was like that of a hesitant candle. Peering through the half-open door, I saw a dancing shadow figure on the shack's wall. The shadow resembled a child, moving with strange gestures, seemingly playing on the walls. Yet there was no visible light source. No candle or lantern was to be seen. The shadow suddenly turned towards me, and at that very moment, my flashlight flickered violently, then died completely. In the darkness, from where the shadow had been, a faint sobbing sound was heard, followed by an icy gust of wind that brushed across my face. I felt an unseen presence inside the shack wanting to play with me, but I knew this game had no innocent ending. I returned to the canal, and as I untied the boat and tried to push away from the island, a strange sensation overwhelmed me as I dipped the oars into the water. The water felt denser, more alive. Suddenly I began to hear numerous muffled whispers coming from beneath the water. The voices were incomprehensible, yet they carried an invitation, a pull. My oars grew heavy, as if glued to the water. The boat began to drift on its own, moving away from the shore, drawn towards a darker, unknown direction. Then a slight pulling sensation emerged on my legs. It felt as though something from within the water was trying to drag me down. In a panic, I dropped the oars and clung to the side of the boat. On the water's surface, for a fleeting moment, I saw indistinct fingerprints that looked as if they were made of decaying weeds, as if a submerged hand had made a last, desperate attempt to hold on. Was this the attempt of the drowned spirits in the canal to pull me down with them into the abyss? In the darkest hours of the night, guided by the faint beam of my flashlight, I walked towards a cluster of trees in the center of the island. This was where some of the oldest and most dilapidated dolls hung. As I approached, my thermal camera detected distinct heat signatures on some of the dolls in the trees. The lifeless piles of plastic and fabric seemed to be heating up from within. At that exact moment, with a gentle gust of wind, I saw the dolls hanging from the trees begin to slowly turn their faces. First one by one, then all at once, their faces rotated towards me, their eyes, though empty, fixing me with an unwavering gaze. From the decaying plastic lips, a single sound rose. "We want to play." This was not a single voice. It was a chorus, a combination of hundreds, thousands of doll voices, echoing in my ears, driving me to the brink of madness. My flashlight flickered with a terrifying glow reflected from the doll's eyes. I now knew that these were not merely lifeless toys, but hosts for all the suffering souls trapped on the island. As darkness descended, leaving the island of the dolls behind, the silent screams from those decaying eyes, the shadow plays in the shack, the whispers from beneath the water, and the collective voices of the hanging dolls still echoed in my ears. Don Julian's pain, the drowned little girl's sorrow, and the presence of all those restless spirits imbued in the island had left a profound impact on me. I now knew that the island of the dolls was not just an eerie tourist attraction, but a home to forgotten tragedies, suppressed anguish, and souls that would never find peace. And I, through the horrifying experiences I lived on that island, had become a part of those silent screams. I would never dare to approach those canals again, because the doll's eyes would forever follow me, whispering in my sleep, "Play with us. You can never leave."